and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Chairman Scott Tremblay.
Here.
Member William Dittmer.
Here.
Member Jenny Sorrell.
Here.
Member Todd McClary.
Here.
Member Tom Kinsella.
Here.
City Attorney James Matthews.
Here.
City Manager John Duke.
Here. Thank you. Looking for a motion to approve board minutes.
Motion to approve minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
At this time, we have comments from the general public. Nobody signed up. I see some people here. Anyone like to speak at this time? Just show of hands. Seeing no hands, we're going to move on to comments from our city manager, Mr. Duke, if any.
Nothing to add, sir.
Thank you. Any comments from the board?
None.
All right. Let's get down to board business then. Discussion, presentation with Ayers Associates of Cody River Landing feasibility study, the financial breakdown. I'm going to ask Mr. Duke make some introductions and open this part of the item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Martins is here with Ayers Engineering, has put together some numbers if it is your desire, but at least gives us a ballpark idea. Mr. Martins, thank you for being here.
Appreciate it.
Welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Mr. Mayor, board members. Pleasure to be here once again. Chris Martin with Ayers Associates, and I am delighted to provide a summary and status report of where we're at with the Cody River Landing project. Earlier this week, we had the opportunity to share, if so approved.
Look for a motion.
Motion.
So if I could summarize what our approach to the phase one infrastructure and access, safety, and the lighting throughout the overlay district. Pause a little bit so you can see the document. That yellow is what we propose as the phase one sidewalk and shops along Bayview. So in summary, our phase one approach includes sidewalk connectivity along from Bayview, Cody, and Old Post to the one-way counterclockwise configuration. So what does that involve from a construction standpoint? We propose to not make any modifications to the roadway per se at this point. The one-way conversion can be accommodated by pavement markings as well as signage. And so that is what we have proposed for phase one. Below that map, you will see a itemized breakdown, which is very preliminary at this point. We have obtained quantities via aerial takeoffs, so that there's consider some interesting news. Duke Energy has a program of which they are willing to invest in these improvements, the construction costs and material costs of these lighting, and lease them to the city. So Duke offered to hold a meeting with the engineering staff in the city, and we'd be happy to facilitate that meeting to further discuss what those options are with Duke Energy and the viability of perhaps accommodating their leasing agreement. As we look at the project as a whole, what we've proposed here is phase one. I think will provide the let's call it the low-hanging fruit, the ability to get sidewalks, accessibility, and show some improvement to the area at the lowest cost possible. Subsequently, it would be my recommendation that there only be 2 phases to the project, this phase, and then we complete the remaining portion of the desired enhancements as a phase 2. However, there is an option to further phase it out for a phase 2 and a phase 3. And I'd like to briefly touch on what my recommendation would be for those kind of that phasing. Phase 2, I would recommend, if we are going for a 3-phase approach, I would save the last phase 3 for Bayview Street. That is the most complex segment of the waterfront district, of which includes right-of-way to right-of-way improvements. The flexibility in total construction costs for Bayview Street is tremendous because the hardscaping and landscaping is 30 to 40% of the improvement costs on Bayview Street. What I would consider a phase 2 approach would be from Catches up to the intersection of Cody and Bayview Street, enhancing that segment with the increased width of a sidewalk, parallel parking, as well as sidewalk connectivity on River Boulevard from 19 as well would be something I would recommend in phase 2. So in summary, what you're seeing on this document here is our recommended phase 1 approach, focusing on sidewalk connectivity, safety enhancements with lighting, and the one-way conversion. And then subsequently, a phase 2 would include the same type of improvements on Bayview Street from Catches to the Cody and Bayview intersection, saving a phase 3 approach for Bayview from Cody to Treadway and incorporating Nix Park within that last and final phasing. One item I would like to add on our phase 1 is coupled with the one-way traffic conversion is an analysis of the turn lane southbound on 19 turning right onto Cody there, whether it's feasible to close that and if DOT is going to have any objection to that approach. At this point in our early discussions, that does not appear to be an insurmountable obstacle. In fact, the DOT recommended that this one-way conversion would lend itself to restricting right turns at that location. It's recognized that some of the residents there voiced concern on accessibility to Nix Park and what the impact of this one-way conversion would be. So we'd be happy to discuss that in detail during the design phase or at this point. So with what we're seeing here is a phase 1 approach. I'll open up to any questions on what the scope is of this approach. And if anybody has any questions on pricing and what enhancements are most desired for this initial phase.
Well, I think our number one thing is confirming we have DOT for the turn off US 19. That's the number one item that we have to make sure that's done. And I think we had a couple different ways that we could do it. So we could put ballards up or a low median or different things. So I think we need to lock that down and find out that first. I agree, like we discussed last time, I think we need to move forward with the one-way to start to develop that with everybody, because it's a learning curve for everybody not to go down certain streets. So I think we need to get that implemented as soon as we can. And then the last item, it works out really well that the sidewalks and the lighting come out to just what we said we needed to spend on sidewalks and lighting. Unless the Duke Energy comes through, obviously, and you'll get with them to set a time up.
Absolutely.
Okay, because I think that's going to lend itself to a big deal, because if that lighting drops off and Duke Energy does that, that frees up a big chunk of what we set aside for sidewalks and lighting to be used in a different area down there. So I think that's something we want to lock in pretty early.
Absolutely, sir. We will set that up immediately. I'll work with John on a time that works for everybody. The one comment I would add is the lighting options that Duke Energy is willing to accommodate.
Pretty bare bones.
Pardon?
Pretty bare bones.
Pretty bare bones. My preliminary assessment, it looked to be around 10 lighting fixtures that they are willing to accommodate. And thus
They're not giving you $99,000 worth of stuff.
So my point is, if we're willing to do that, possibly we can just do an upgrade and spend a little bit more.
We could supplement it.
Yeah. Supplement that,
Yeah.
Lighting fixtures.
You'll be supplementing about 80,000 of the 99,000.
The point is that I think it's definitely worth considering what Duke's program is, with the understanding that the city will be giving up some of the flexibility in deciding the nature and aesthetic look of those fixtures. And if we are striving for a Fisherman Village theme.
If you're looking for a theme and a presentation, you want to be careful with, I understand, FP&L great idea, or Duke Energy, yeah. They both do the same program, so it doesn't matter. It sounds great, but one, you're not getting a whole lot, and two, you're going to be leasing for the rest of eternity for it. So ultimately, what you're getting, and you're probably at a 30% of what you think what you want, you're getting from Duke Energy.
But we
Might
can
as well
look at it
spend
this
all.
way too. The lighting that Duke Energy does can accomplish a lot of the safety requirements of lighting the area, and then we could do more ornamental lighting around with our money. But this way, kill two birds with one stone. Let's get some of the safety stuff done, put us on a good program, and then maybe we can put the ornamental, the fishing, those type of lights, and then our budget will be stretched further.
Well, that was along the comments that I was going to make. One of my biggest goals with this project for Cody River Landing was safety. In here, it looks like the first thing we're addressing are sidewalks and lighting, which is the crux of making this a safer environment. And the traffic flow, having the traffic flow correct. Those are all things that really go to the heart of what our purpose was. So that's why I am in favor of this particular plan and moving it as quickly as we can, because I think our goal as a council has to make this as safe as possible for people to enjoy that area down there. And that's why I was in favor of this when I saw it, because it really goes to the heart of why we were doing this project to begin with. And I want to thank you, because I think you've recognized that and you've really pulled that out very well in the first phase. The other thing, just as a collateral comment, one of the issues that'll be interesting is I know that turn off of 19 onto Cody, what is it, Cody Road? Or, I can't remember the name of the road there. It's
Cody Avenue.
Cody Avenue. Cody Avenue. Is whether or not DOT would be willing to either help pay for that or help finance that change, because as the traffic pattern changes, it's just flat out unsafe for traffic coming off of 19 at 45 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, whatever the speed limit is there, to turn onto a street anyways that's that residential in nature, where you have pedestrian traffic, and obviously you're going to have boat traffic and other things moving through there. So that was one of the things I didn't know if, as we see number one, how to do it, and whether or not we have their blessing to do it, whether or not they would help finance it. And I didn't know if that's one of the things that we can explore.
Absolutely, we can explore
Okay.
that. What our design approach would be is obtain the topographic survey of this area, which we have proposed in our phase 1 design approach, and at which point we could then develop a plan, approach the DOT, and one, get their blessing, and two, encourage the DOT to support these improvements, recognizing the benefit and safety enhancements.
The safety issue, correct. And that's all I have. I'd like to move on phase 1 actually probably as quickly as we can, because it does enhance the safety of our citizens down there as they go. So, I think the quicker the better, in terms of, as someone said earlier, getting shovels in the ground as it relates to sidewalks and lighting. So that was my comment. I wanted to pass it along to council for further discussion.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
If we're gonna shut off Coty Avenue from 19, but we are still gonna allow the boats to go ahead and go out and go south on 19.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It'll be a right out exit only. Southbound.
Okay, so when you do that, what would that require? Just one of some of those big cement bumper things that we see on the interstate all the time? Temporarily?
Potentially.
I think we were given a couple options. Mr. Duke, did that not give us, or somebody give us a couple options on how to close off?
Richter Engineering gave us 3 options for redesigning the intersection, not closing it. The fourth, close it, was something they had penciled in.
Close it off to the southbound.
Right. But
We do have 3 designs.
we have 3 design options that are, but those 3 do not include closing southbound into a right-hand turn. They're just redesigning it for some enhanced safety.
Why did Richter, we always went to Richter for closing off that intersection. Why are they redesigning it? Regardless.
The idea of closing it was something the engineer had literally penciled in along the side of his 3 options on here's how you enhance the safety. That one was not drawn up.
But that's like what started the whole conversation, is shutting off that
But we're actually
intersection.
not closing the intersection. We're only closing it to southbound off that.
Right. His penciled in idea was close the whole
Oh,
intersection.
yeah, we don't want to close the.
Oh, no, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Just close off the southbound to Cody.
Right.
Is-
My point I was trying to make is there are some plans already floating around in-house somewhere.
Gotcha.
The way I'm looking at this, we really can't do much with the moving on the one-way traffic until DOT decides what they're going to do on that southbound, if they're going to allow us to prevent that right turn. I mean, the way I'm understanding, doing that one-way circle around,
We
I mean,
could.
it's a moot point right now.
We could, because what would happen is you'd come off of southbound 19 onto Cody and then have to go down Old Post.
Make it immediate right on.
Yeah, you'd have to make a loop.
Almost a
Yeah,
hairpin.
Yeah,
hairpin
almost a
turn.
270 degree.
Yeah, until they
So-
close it down. So we could do our work, but then it would make that southbound turn almost
But
useless.
honestly, there's no reason for anybody to make that turn like that. There's no reason whatsoever. So
I mean, that's why it would be in conjunction with.
I think we'll be causing a greater headache for the police department by moving forward without the cooperation of DOT, because you're going to continue to have the vehicles going westbound on Cody Avenue.
His design, or the design, would be in conjunction with the DOT closure. So by the time construction actually starts, DOT would probably be in alignment already.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that, but
That would be our design intent, is to prepare this concurrent with the DOT's efforts. And
It'd be part of the permitting process.
correct.
It'd be DOT's approval.
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
One question I did have, actually 2 questions. One, you have construction costs. Is there a design estimate included for this? So we're 600,000 plus you.
We
What's
do.
you?
We have prepared a phase 1 design proposal that was just a hair shy, $99,000 is what we presented. And that includes a topographic and boundary survey a little bit beyond the limits of what you're seeing in the yellow there.
Okay. So your 99,000 is just for the essentially design of the scope of work in yellow through CDs and permitting?
Correct.
Okay.
So that's on top of the 600?
Yes. So it's, the 600 is actually 700.
That's what I thought. It makes sense.
And on Old Post, you said you didn't want any changes, or didn't have design currently any changes to the street, Old Post itself.
Correct.
And maybe I missed this, but I thought on the original design we had sidewalk in the section between Cody and Treadway. How do we incorporate that sidewalk?
We are proposing a sidewalk on Old Post as part of this phase 1.
We're just not going to change the street, we're just going to put the sidewalk next to the?
Correct.
The street, okay. All right, gotcha. And then we have all the one-ways, so this will give us everything functioning. Do you have any, recommended that Bayview be done all in one phase. Originally, we were tossing around numbers of $3.3 million for the entire project. This turns out to be $600,000. Are you inferring that the Bayview section is $2.6 million in
I am
phase
indeed
2
inferring
costs?
that the Bayview section is by far the most complex and expensive improvement area in this entire Cody River Landing. What we have proposed is quite extensive on the landscaping, hardscape, decorative lighting side. So that 2.3 million that you're seeing could be very much reduced depending on the level of aesthetics the city is looking for in the area.
Okay, so in reality, this could represent 30% of the cost. This 600,000 could represent 30% cost
Correct.
of it. So that 2.3 actually, or 2.6 actually comes down with some reasonable value engineering.
Correct.
So in reality, what we're saying is the entire project's probably closer to 2.2 million, or a total of $2 million construction with some reasonable value engineering efforts.
Absolutely.
Okay.
One of the questions are not really concerns, I guess it is a concern, in terms of enforcement. Once this goes into effect, are we going to have the right manpower to go down there? Because I know that as soon as we change this traffic pattern, it's going to take a while for the general public and folks to understand what's going on, and I would think that that's going to have an increased demand on our police department and maybe other services down there to make sure everything's running like it should.
Yeah, we should be fine. We're also going to look to employ some bicycle patrols down there so that the quicker response and more pedestrian and visitor friendly. So we'll have a dual response to that.
We have that lighted sign that you have down there much prior to the announcing changes the traffic pattern, sort of giving everybody a heads up.
Typically, when there's big construction efforts like this, because this is probably a several-month ordeal that's going to go on as they do construction, a lot goes on. People see it's changing, so it's not like you're going to shift the roads around on day one. It's going to be more of an ordeal that you'll have plenty of time for people to be notified and kind of understand what's going on.
How long is the traffic been one way?
And you have a distinct loop, and I'm sure you have some signage included in here to kind of indicate to people, hey
Absolutely.
guys. Yeah, so there's a lot more than what we tried in-house to accomplish.
Sure, and what I've seen done early on, once a new traffic pattern is established, maintaining variable message board signs up for a couple months after those improvements to ensure that the people that go to that area are aware of the change.
How long do you have for your design effort?
We have proposed 5 months for the design effort, mainly because the topographic and boundary survey is slated for 60 days until completion. And on our design effort, we're on hold until we get the topographic survey.
So you have 5 months plus another month, 2 months of bidding, plus another 4 months of work. So this time next year, we may be talking about a completed phase 1.
Correct. And that schedule could be condensed.
Yeah, get your topo guy working a little faster.
Thank you.
So you feel that construction for this type of project will be approximately a 4-month project?
I would recommend proposing at least a 6-month
6-month
duration
project.
for a contractor.
Okay.
I'm good, let's get it done.
I think we would probably want a motion for him to approve design services, and then that basically sets it all in motion.
Also, we're looking at overall budgeting of the whole thing, we committed 200,000.
But I think we should earmark the 700,000.
Well,
I agree with you.
from where?
From CRA funding.
That was the point.
From CRA.
Well, we can't touch, in this meeting, we can't touch anything other than CRA.
But CRA has to be, I think, earmarked if you're going to.
Well, right now, CRA can just authorize design services to proceed out of funds we have in hand.
But-
we have to get a complete financial accounting to make sure we know exactly where we are with CRA total funding to see what then provides the other 600,000 of cost, which would be coming in 2 weeks.
We will have CRA numbers for you in 2 weeks.
I mean, we know we have 99,000 to pay him. That buys us 5 months.
Basically, yes.
And then we figure out where, once we have identified
Since
and,
we're all committed to this project, I don't think that's an issue.
yeah, no,
but,
yeah, I don't
but,
think,
but what I'd like to do sooner than later, once we get the presentation, we know we're at CRA, is I'd like to earmark the rest of the funds for phase one.
yeah, that's not a
Right.
problem. We just have to make sure we have the fun.
Budget.
Yes.
Budget thing, and I'm quite sure that they're aware that we're gonna have to make allowances for those purposes.
Yeah,
When we tell them we're gonna spend money, he has to find it.
I mean, in reality, we're on the hook regardless now for 200 of this. So really, we're just finding the other 400
We're a third into it.
or 500.
Yeah, so I think that we should
Yeah.
And-
make a motion to move ahead with it.
Motion to move ahead with design efforts for phase one of the Cody River Landing.
Second.
Before we go any further, any comments from the general public before we vote on this? If you don't mind yielding the podium, I was going to allow the public to speak, and thank you. Mr. Mueller, welcome. Come on up.
Thank you, Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. Just a couple of observations. I know you guys talked about breaking this into phases. I think that's a great idea. It's easier to swallow financially. Where Treadway extends into Seaside Inn area, that area is, I don't know whether it's under development, whether somebody's buying that property, but there's a chunk there that if we get the cart before the horse, maybe that needs to be pulled out for the benefit of whatever might be going in there, and at the point in time, maybe that's decided in a year. That could be accommodated in another fashion with that construction if something else is going in there. It's just something that I saw there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Any further comments from the general public? Seeing no hands at this time, there's a motion and a second on the table. Any need for any further discussion amongst the board?
Just to that comment, if we are looking when it comes to bidding or anything, that could be a good add alternate to the bid documents for that little small section right there that pulls it back out, that we could actually talk about on construction. So
Well, if we have somebody building down there, we can also put that they need to take care of it.
exactly. So that's an easy
So that's exactly.
that's an easy one to pull out, that small section. But we'd have to design it to our standards anyway, and then where the money comes from, we'll figure it out later.
We have a motion and a second. Let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Any clarification needed from either council or city management?
No, sir.
And with that, I think that concludes the discussion in board business. I'd like to move on to old business, if any.
I do not have any other business.
Come around. And looking for a motion.
Motion to adjourn. Excuse
All in
me.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See, you didn't even eye it.